Yesterday, my colleagues unveiled before you the specific instances of unfulfilled commitments over the past 36 months ever since this government assumed office. Today we would step back and evaluate the performance of this government on certain broad benchmarks, which would both give a sense and a feel as to how this government has actually fared on those uniformly accepted benchmarks of measuring any government's performance. Essentially, there are 5 parameters on which the performance of any government can be evaluated. The first is social cohesion. The second is internal security. The third is economic development. The fourth is international relations. And the fifth is the commitment to institutionalism. And on each of these counts, the report card of the government is more than blotted. If you pick up the first parameter, social cohesion and social balance has completely gone for a toss in the past 3 years. And this is primarily because this government does not believe in the founding values of the Indian state. It does not believe in the idea of India. It does not believe in the preambular values of the Indian Constitution. And that gets reflected in the assault on the freedom to eat, the freedom to dress as you like, the freedom to think, the freedom to express, and most importantly, the freedom to live your life free of any fear or free of any intimidation. In the past 3 years, the singular achievement of this government has been to create a climate of fear, of intimidation in this country, which has compelled especially people from the creative community to actually install a self-censor in their heads. And that perhaps is the biggest assault on social cohesion in the past 36 months. On internal security, the Kashmir failure is before you. The government does not know whether it is coming or going on Kashmir. The alliance of the ideologically incompatibles, the Bharatiya Janata Party and the PDP, has proven to be an abject and miserable failure. As we speak, the sense of drift in Kashmir is getting institutionalized. And the fear is that the situation is completely and absolutely beyond the control of this government. on containing left-wing extremism, all that you hear is a lot of hyperbole and rhetoric. In terms of substantive action, in terms of a coherent strategy to contain left-wing extremism, you have not heard a single word in the past 36 months from this government. There has been no enunciation of what is the policy of the NDA BJP government on the question of left-wing extremism. All you see is failed tactics, which is repeatedly leading to loss of lives. On the Naga Accord, nobody knows whether the accord still exists or it's vanished into literally thin air. And I'm just picking up the broad strokes of the failure of this government over the past 3 years. If you come to economic development, let me give you 5 statistics only. And all these 5 statistics are from the data which is put out by the Department of Economic Affairs of the Ministry of Finance. In 2015-16, GDP grew by 7.9%. By their own estimate, it had come down to 7.1% by 2016-17. Now, if you dehorse the statistical jugglery of the base year, the Indian economy is actually growing at only 5.1%. And I'm not making comparisons here, but throughout the 10 years of the UPA government, on an average, at 2004-2005 as the base year, the Indian economy grew by 7.8%, despite the economic meltdown and the Eurozone crisis. Next, if you look at the index of industrial production, from the April to the February of 2015-16, so April 2015 to February 2016, IIP grew at 2.6%. Between the April and February of 2016 and 17, the index of industrial production grew by only 0.4%. So from 2.6%, there is a rollback of the IIP to only 0.4%. This is reflected in the data for the 8 core sectors of the economy, the 8 core infrastructure sectors. In March 2016, the 8 core sectors were growing by 9.3%. In the March of 2017, that figure was down to 5% only. So a rollback by about 4.3%. If you look at the growth of money supply on an year-on-year basis, 31st of March 2016, money supply was growing by 10%. 31st March 2017, it is 7.3%. This is the impact of demonetization. This is the clear and tangible evidence as to how demonetization has really hit the fundamentals of the Indian economy. And finally, if you look at the dollar to the rupee, on the 17th of May 2014, after allegedly 1.5 years of policy paralysis, the dollar was trading at 58.57 paisa to the rupee. On the 17th of May 2017, the same dollar is trading at 64.3 paisa to the rupee, up by 5 rupees and 46 paisa. And finally, if you move on to international relations, Prime Minister Modi has spent a lot of the last 36 months abroad. He has gone and addressed the Indian diaspora in multiple stadia, in multiple locations. But the BJP NDA government has completely failed to maintain a balance between the United States, Russia, China, and the European Union. And nothing reflects this failure more than the conference in Beijing recently on the One Belt, One Road. Despite having a legitimate claim that the China-Pakistan economic corridor passes through territory illegally occupied by Pakistan, India was not able to carry even one country except Bhutan along with it on this vital question of Westphalian sovereignty. All of India's neighbors, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh, Maldives, and of course Pakistan, all of them were present at the OBR conference in Beijing. The Pakistan policy, I do not know. In the last 36 months, I have not seen any evidence that this government has any policy on Pakistan except U-turns, somersaults, and flip-flops. And they've actually allowed the Pakistani deep state to run circles around them. Africa, South America, and even ASEAN seems to have fallen off the map. And there is no movement on membership of the National Security Nuclear Suppliers Group or the UN Security Council. And finally, the last 3 years have been marked by increasing conflict with the Supreme Court. No Lokpal. After paying lip service to Lokpal over all these years, destabilization of opposition-ruled governments. So to conclude, इस सरकार के 3 साल का जो कार्यकाल है वो 2 वाक्यों में सम्मिलित हो सकता है. पहला कि मेरा भाषण ही मेरा शासन और प्रशासन है. तो जबानी जमा खर्च जितना मर्जी जमा करा लो, काम के नाम पे कुछ नहीं है. और दूसरा कि मेरा एक ही उद्देश्य है और वो है राजनीतिक द्वेष. और इसीलिए अपने कार्यकाल के 3 साल पूरे होने पर जो अज्ञानता और अहंकार का उत्कृष्ट सम्मिश्रण कल सरकार ने पेश किया,